After a brief intermission for work, it was time to pick up the rest of the crew. It was time for some last-minute chores, including a rig check. That means heading up the mast. Pulling Serendipity off the dock after 6 months of being unattended was a lot of work. It was about to get a little worse as I got round 2 of COVID. Our buddies down at Maz Oceans boarded Serendipity to help with some last-minute AIS installation and troubleshooting. I highly recommend them if you're in the Fort Lauderdale area. It was finally departure day, and solo sailor Nick had just pulled up to the fuel dock and helped us get on our way. With that, Serendipity was finally set free. Due to a little bit of bridge height issues, we headed up the intercoastal. Nick joined us as our buddy boat for a ride. Finally, it was time to say goodbye, so we bid Nick adieu as we continued on our journey. There was a lot of discussion on board about which inlet we would exit into the Atlantic. We finally made a decision to exit at Jupiter. It seemed to be a great decision. Day 2, and we were on our way out to the Gulf Stream. The crew was settling into our rotational schedule and grabbing naps and activities wherever they could.
That's a big one.
We had some additional visitors join us for a little bit, riding alongside.
Coming back your way.
It was time to stave off some boredom with some trolling fishing. I'd never really tried this before, but we decided to give it a go and see what we come up with. The major key here is not to get your line all tangled up.
Not all the way. I need enough to get.
The guys finally got the line set, and now we wait.
What is it? Day 2? Day 2. Bringing Serendipity home. Woo-hoo. Somewhere in the Gulf Stream.
With a little help from the current, we hit a whopping 10.3 knots that night.
Most important job of the day, feeding the crew. Gonna make some sandwiches. Head back upstairs.
After lunch, the crew was really working hard. I personally am not a fan of rotational sleep schedules, but we were given it a go on this trip, and it was proving hard.
Day 3, aboard Serendipity. Headed to Charleston to pick up a life raft. No wind. So, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. My trusty crew over here. It's what sailors do when there's no wind.
But of course, you get wind when you don't want it. And we were about to get it, pulling into the port of Charleston.
Nothing like a torrential downpour coming through a channel. How you feeling, Captain? Yeah, let's go down the channel at night in blinding rain. Woo!
I never recommend doing this, but we were racing the dark and we needed to get into port to collect our life raft. We made it though, and eventually docked safe.
Oh no, we're taking on water. Why could it be? Could it be a fish? A flying fish plugging the drain hole? Perhaps. Just want to note for the record, we've got critical supplies for the journey forward. Beer, life raft, Coca-Cola. Bob's driving.
Yay.
All right. T-minus a couple hours until the storms pass.
It wound up being more than a couple hours, so we took the crew to downtown Charleston to see what we could find.
Nothing good about having 2 drunk cousins trying to work.
Also what sailors do when they're not sailing.
I'm not plundering.
Oh, he's plundering. He's spending money.
Not plundering.
And spending money I did. I bought a commemorative ring, the color of the sea.
Are you pouring the drinks? Pour the drink.
From here, it was on to Pearls in downtown Charleston for some food and drinks with the crew.
Yes.
As Serendipity would have it, Bob and Pete's relatives were in Charleston that day as well, so they joined us for some shenanigans that evening.
Cheers, mate. Woo. Cheers to the captain.
We sail in an hour.
It was time to introduce Catherine, New York native, to a southern tradition of oyster shooters.
Somebody put something in my shot.
Oh yeah?
Can I pull the oyster out?
No, the captain can't handle it.
I don't like it. I shoot it.
She can handle 30 knots in the dark. Docking, but she can't handle the oyster.
Needless to say, she was more than skeptical.
Hold it up.
She can dock a boat, but she can't eat an oyster.
Once you get past all of the other stuff, the oyster's good. Like a coconut.
And with that, she was indoctrinated to the southern crew, and we kept the oysters flowing.
Clear it down.
Partway through dinner, we realized the weather wasn't going to clear that night, and we weren't going to get off the dock. So, of course, we had to introduce some more shenanigans. How about a cracker eating challenge? Preparing the challenge proved as hard as the challenge itself. All crackers, no water, set to a timer.
Okay, let me put the timer on.
All right, P, you got it.
6. What's 6?
Cheating.
5. Tell me what we're cheating. Okay. And go.
Would Pirate Pete be able to eat all 6 crackers in the time
I got
allotted?
it. I got it 48 seconds over here.
We seemed to not be able to keep Pete silent, even when his mouth was full. It seemed that even the best of pirates aboard Serendipity couldn't complete this challenge. But with the rain continuing to fall outside, that didn't stop anyone else at the table from joining in and trying to complete the challenge. Known for his abnormally soft
he's
beard
taking it so
and determined look, this crewmate was determined
This is all like.
that he would finish the challenge.
He's just like inhaling. He's like, all right, whatever. 4, 3, 2, 1. No. Even the Serbians can't do it.
It was cracked open.
And with that, it was official. We were not getting off the dock. So we did what all good sailors do and ordered another round of drinks.
Stormy weather.
If it wasn't for a crappy lifeboat that was French that couldn't be serviced in the US, this never would have happened. Just be sure to always pack a crew that you can have fun in port with. We continued on to check out some more of Charleston and headed to a rooftop.
Back for the rooftop. Charleston. Woo!
This is atop the Market Pavilion Hotel in downtown Charleston, and it offers some stunning views of the bay and great views of sunset when there's sun.
Planes on there?
Yeah. Makes the coconut music a little better.
It's a party in the USA. Thank you.
A few more drinks and Pirate Pete was starting to feel his inner Miley.
See if you can balance all this.
Did you want pretty in that?
Pressure.
I don't know. He's pretty.
always want
I
pretty in
don't
that.
need you to be
Want
pretty.
After a few drinks, our waiter was pretty. You were pretty.
There it is.
I was pretty. Everybody was pretty.
Pretty. Sweet tea.
And a sweet tea martini was extra pretty.
going to bed. Thank you. Do you want to lock it in?
The next morning, the weather had cleared, the crew's hangovers had cleared,
Oh, you just walk in like
and
the
we
place
headed
and
out of the
nobody
Port of
has any
Charleston.
problems. That's how it goes.
The Port of Charleston was a very busy port for shipping containers, and on the way out, there's a long breakwater wall. So you have to be very careful about how close you get to either of those objects.
Ah, Charleston. Man, that's crazy. Look at that. It's like 5 towers high just to get up to the bridge. Oh, there's the pilot.
This is about the closest that I had ever been or ever want to be to a large shipping container. It's absolutely incredible the sheer size of these ships.
Going to sea.
Due to the sheer size of these boats, there are professional pilots who will go out and meet them in the channel to guide them in and out.
Crazy.
With the container ship safely ahead of us, we were headed back to sea.
What sailors do when the sails blow out and there's no wind.
Doctor, you can do it.
Surgery. Performing surgery.
We had no wind and a photo-degraded Code Zero, but we were going to give it a go with a repair.
Watch, we'll patch this hole and then we'll find another one.
We began by actually trying to do this the right way, with needle and thread, and a good stitch.
Oh, I'll save that piece. Be my little sentimental.
But after a few hours of trying, I broke out the Gorilla Tape. We threw it on there and hoisted that baby up. We would actually find out she would sail like this for another 200 miles. No problems. The weather remained really calm with little wind, so we continued to entertain ourselves by watching for dolphins and trolling for fish.
He just went floating right under us back there.
And as luck would have it, we caught a really nice mahi. And before you get excited, this is actually the quick and humane way to kill a fish before filleting them. Bob had actually done this a few times before. So we would fillet the mahi on the transom of the boat, rinse everything down, and then prepare the fillets for a little bit of sushi and some other delicacies later that night.
Pete the chef, our fresh mahi.
Timer?
Turning mahi into fresh fish tacos for the crew that night was absolutely awesome. It's always so good to catch fresh fish at sea.
What sailors do when things go to shit. We drink and eat.
Back above board, we carried on the tradition of watching for the green flash at sunset. Given that there was no wind, we made an executive decision to head for Beaufort, North Carolina, to gather some more fuel before rounding Hatteras. The next morning, we were safely at dock. Join us on the next episode as we head north to Newport with new crew and get tangled up in a couple scary storms.